get your hands on in the universe is real estate. It's just a matter of getting your hands on it. But most people aren't concerned with this. And then when somebody else gets their hands on it, people are upset with the way that they decide to use it. Well, if you didn't get your hands on it first and lock it down, the only thing that you can do is say to the people who did take it, I guess I gotta follow the rules. Then you gotta ask yourself the question, is the world correct? So with that being Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another video. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking. All right. So welcome to Blacklight Technologies episode number 1. All right, and what we're going to be talking about in this series are some of the emerging and changing technologies that will be changing the face of the world, whether people like it or not, right in front of their eyes. We have, I want to say, 5 articles in this series. The last one is not necessarily about a technology, it's about a discovery. But these are some interesting things. And throughout this series, I like to get people's opinions. All right. When it comes to emerging technologies, those are opportunities that people have to make a lot of money by getting in early. All right. And remember, your boy is about the extraction method, not the negotiation method. So innovation and coming up with technologies and financial investment in early technologies, as well as watching the market, are ways that people can improve their wealth. All right. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How many people are interested in improving their wealth? You're not going to save everybody, you know what I'm saying? But you can save yourself. So now here it says there's a new drug, all right, that can help people with a rare disease to grow longer limbs. All right. The potential treatment could be used for several conditions in people. Now, immediately I'm thinking about this drug, right? And it can help people with a rare disease grow longer limbs. If they're coming out with drugs that could help people grow longer limbs, that to me seems that at some point in the future, there may be a way to tailor your height with a drug similar to this or a drug derivative to this. You know what I'm saying? And you know that as a cosmetic drug, oh my goodness, man, people will be willing to pay massive amounts of money for that. The health impact of certain congenital conditions, which affect around 3% of babies born in the US, can be alleviated by costly surgeries, but many lack drugs to reverse or treat resulting birth differences. Now, new research shows that might not always be the case. For the first time ever, scientists have successfully lengthened the limbs of mice programmed with mutations linked to a rare condition in humans called Robinow syndrome. How many people know what Robinow syndrome is? This feat could pave the way towards treatments for a range of congenital conditions, according to a recent study published in the journal Development. All right, so what we're going to learn about now is what is rainbow syndrome. All right, if anybody knows what rainbow syndrome is, make sure you guys type it in the comment section. If you don't know, just put a question mark in the comment section. All right. Rainbow syndrome affects a tiny fraction of the population. Fewer than 200 people have been diagnosed with this autosomal recessive form, where the parents usually don't have the condition. The autosomal dominant form, where one parent often has it, impacts an estimated 50 families worldwide. People with rainbow syndrome tend to have relatively short arms and leg bones, as well as certain distinctive facial features, including a broad forehead, widely spaced eyes, a cleft palate, and dental crowding. but the severity and symptoms of rainbow syndrome can widen uh, between individuals. Megan Mikulski, a craniofacial development researcher at the Van Adel Institute in Michigan and co-author of the new study, tells Inverse. Generally, the condition can be caused by a mutation in genes such as FZD2, which helps make a protein that directs cells to organize in tissues. Mikulski's team decided to hone in on this signaling mechanism, which is called WNT, to create a potential treatment. Future growth. Researchers began by studying a group of genetically modified mice whose FZD2 genes were edited to induce rainbow-like birth differences. The researchers first observed a generation of these mice grow up to see whether their genetic mutations produced similar features to humans with rainbow. Sure enough, the mice appeared to have shortened limbs, cleft palates, and other facial features that are associated with the congenital condition. Then, researchers watched what happened when mice got pregnant. When the features were developing, they treated some of the mothers with a drug designed to mimic the WNT mechanism that hindered by mutations. Ultimately, the scientists discovered that the pups exposed to the drugs as embryos were born with significantly longer limbs compared with the control group. Despite the exciting results, Mikulski cautions that it's still too early to tell whether it would have the same effect in humans. While mouse models can provide valuable insights into the molecular and cellular mechanisms underlying human disease, not all aspects of a condition can be replicated this way, she says. Still, a drug that carefully targets the WNT pathway would offer a major benefit, preventing the physical impacts of rainbow syndrome at birth without the need for surgery. What's more, it also has implications for much broader spectrums of conditions. When things go wrong, WNT can impact a host of diseases, said Mikulski. These include various types of cancers, such as breast cancer and melanoma, as well as type 2 diabetes. Now, this is where I think that this thing might find its best use, because if this rainbow syndrome only affects 50 families worldwide, that's not a large market for it. But now when you get into the realm of treating cancer, breast cancer, melanoma, and type 2 diabetes, now you've just expanded the usefulness for this product. But now the research remains in early stages. Mikulski describes the work as promising. However, she says it's only the first step in applying these findings to patient care. All right. So there's that. Okay. They're working on drugs that can increase the length of people's limbs, all right, in relation to a quote unquote rare syndrome. All right. But then as you see, they're going to expand the uses of it for people with cancer and people with type 2 diabetes and many different kinds of medical issues. All right. So what we have next is an article about the aging factor. All right. Let me ask you guys a question. How many people out there wish that they could stay frozen in time at a certain age or slow the aging process? You know, you might get some kind of special cream to stop getting wrinkles in your face, or, you know, people get those machines that vibrate real heavy to stop them from getting wrinkles in their ass and all kind of stuff. Well, now it looks like there could possibly be direct genetic therapy that could change that on the DNA level. Okay. What it says here is, can we change how fast humans age? Now, if you ask me, this is a very easy question to answer. Of course we can. If you sat in a garage and breathed in carbon monoxide your entire life, which would be very short, you'd probably have a very short life, right? But if you improved your conditions, you improved your diet, you improved your daily routine, you introduced weight-bearing exercises, you got the appropriate amount of nutrition, under most normal circumstances, that should decelerate your aging process, right? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. So we already know that the aging process can somewhat be manipulated. We're going to see what kind of manipulation this is talking about. A new study is getting closer to the answer. Epigenetic and social factors both predict aging and health, but new research suggests one might be stronger. Now, let me ask you guys a question before we get started. Which one do you think is stronger? Well, clearly, the answer should be very obvious. The answer should be very obvious, but we'll continue. Can we objectively tell how fast we are aging? With a good measure, scientists might be able to change our rate of aging to live longer and healthier lives. Researchers know that some people age faster than others and have been trying to concisely measure the internal physiological changes that lead to deteriorating health with age. For years, researchers have been using clinical factors normally collected by physicals like hypertension, cholesterol, and weight as indicators to predict aging. The idea was that these measures could determine whether someone is a fast or slow ager at any point in their life cycle. But more recently, researchers have theorized that there are other biological markers that reflect aging at the molecular and cellular levels. This includes modifications to a person's genetic material itself, or epigenetics. Now, have you guys ever seen any of those drinks, or have you guys ever seen any of those vitamins, or have you ever seen any of those products that say, we have free radical antioxidants, free radical blocking antioxidants? One of the most famous environmental causes of aging is free radical damage. What free radical damage is when UV light or X-ray light or high frequency light comes through the ozone layer from the sun. It tends to knock off an outer valence layer electron, okay? And when it knocks off an outer layer electron, that electron goes flying and it's like a bullet ricocheting all over the place, and it hits and affects other molecules. What that electron that's flying is called, you guessed it, a free radical, all right? And antioxidants catch free radicals and stabilize them. That's why when you drink things like cranberry juice and eat things like blackberries and it says this is a high antioxidant, that's what the antioxidant is doing. If you have any free radicals ricocheting inside of your body, causing potentially cancerous alterations to your DNA, the free radical blocking antioxidants are catching those and stabilizing them. Those are things that cause you to age faster, okay? So now here it says, while each person has a genetic makeup that largely does not change over time, their lifestyle, chemical changes to their genetic material that occurs throughout their life can change when genes are turned on or off and lead to more rapid aging. These changes typically involve an addition of methyl groups to DNA and are influenced by social and environmental exposures, such as adverse childhood experiences, smoking, pollution, and depression. Now, there's studies about this that also have racism included. So when I tell you guys that the WS social engineering that goes on is also genetic engineering, it is. It is. Racism is a soft form of eugenics, okay? I'm trying to tell people this. I've been telling them this for a long time. You know what I'm saying? So, and look at this. Check this out. Ohio train derailment. Vinyl chloride may have similar liver effects to heavy drinking. We're going to be talking about that later, okay? We're going to be talking about vinyl chloride. But how well do epigenetics markers predict the important health changes that happen with aging? We are social scientists who study how social factors predict aging. Our previous research has shown that factors like education, poverty, race, access to medical care, and certain health behaviors can influence aging rates. Now, let me ask you guys a question. What does being black help you do? If aging terminates with your death and black people die at an earlier age than most other races, what does that say? We are incorporating biological measures like epigenetic age in large population studies to understand how social factors get under the skin and affect aging. In our recently published study, we found that while epigenetic age does not predict certain health outcomes later in life, it does little to explain important differences related to social factors. What is epigenetic aging? In 2013, geneticist and biostatistician Steve Horvath introduced the idea that a person's rate of aging would be captured by the level of methylon in their genome. He also developed ways to measure epigenetic age in terms of years and compare this age to one's chronological age. Researchers have since developed several measures that can more reliably predict health outcomes based on epigenetics. Some have suggested that DNA methylation could potentially be used to summarize the amount and rate of aging with a few drops of blood. Comparing epigenetic and social factors, it has been unclear how well epigenetic age predicts health outcomes compared to other non-genetic factors like demographics and socioeconomic status. We wanted to see whether epigenetic age measured by DNA methylation levels in blood predicted 4 aging-related health outcomes: death, chronic disease, physical disability, and cognitive dysfunction. Using data from the Health and Retirement Study, a large nationally representative sample of Americans over the age of 56, we found that epigenetic age predicted all of the health outcomes we examined. Epigenetic age most strongly predicted death and morbidity later in life. So overall, people with a higher epigenetic age experienced poorer health. Let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to race, because of white supremacy, who do you think has the highest epigenetic age? Now, let me ask you guys a question. Out of everybody who's pointing at everybody and telling everybody what to do, who's studying this and presenting this to government boards and talking about the ongoing factors? Because everybody who's black, who has a child, is born into this, and the United States has damaged our DNA, not just making us involuntarily light-skinned. It's affected your epigenetic age. On the other hand, epigenetic age did not explain why people with certain demographics, such as having less education, smoking, being black or Hispanic, being obese, or having a more difficult childhood, experienced worse health outcomes earlier more frequently. Yeah, actually it does. They literally just explained it, and then they said that it didn't explain it. This is them not taking accountability. You know what I'm saying? These social factors were able to predict mortality and morbidity just as well as epigenetics, and substantially predicted physical and cognitive functioning better than an epigenetic age. Our findings suggest that while DNA methylation is a useful addition to the toolbox to predict health outcomes later in life, other factors such as demographics, socioeconomic status, mental health, and health behaviors remain equally, if not more robust, predictors of health. Better predicting aging and health. Epigenetic aging processes like DNA methylation show promise in explaining aging, but there is still a long way to go before researchers fully understand the molecular and cellular mechanisms underlying aging. Improving our ability to measure both the lifetimes and social experiences that affect biology and the biological mechanisms that underlie aging could lead not only to better measurement of aging, but to better treatments and disease prevention for those who need it the most. All right. And let me ask you guys a question. Who are those who need it the most? If you ask me, epigenetic therapy should be included in any reparations package. But that's just what I think. You know what I'm saying? What do you guys think? If you guys think that epigenetic therapy should be included in any reparations package, give me a thumbs up. If you disagree, then give me a thumbs down. And also let me know why you feel that it shouldn't be. You know what I'm saying? I think that it should. Clearly, these kind of situations have affected our genetics. You know what I'm saying? In more ways than one, not just appearance. You know what I'm saying? So how many people know about the electric slide? It'd be real easy for you to do the electric slide when they start growing electrodes in people, because that's one of the things that they're working on. Scientists just grew electrodes in leeches. Can it be done in humans too? Why would you want to grow electrodes in humans? So you can hook them up to some kind of monitor, so you can siphon energy from them? Why would you want to know about this? Let me ask you guys a question. Is this babble? If this is babble, give me a thumbs up. If this is not babble, give me a thumbs down. Most people don't associate scientists with babbling. know what I'm saying? So, and then also people associate not getting things done with babbling, people just talking. These scientists actually grew electrodes in leeches. The next question that they're asking is, can it be done in humans? This method could lead to safer treatment for neurological conditions like Parkinson's. You know what it can also do? It can also make you have a biomechanical plug-in for electronic human modification devices like Elon Musk Neuralink. Know what I'm saying? Brain cells communicate via chemical signals and short electrical impulses, a phenomenon doctors have long aimed to harness in medicine. But delivering jolts to the nervous system, also known as electrical stimulation, has proved challenging and not to mention risky. Now, scientists are working to make electrical stimulation in the brain much easier and safer. In a paper published last week in Science, a team of Swedish researchers laid out their vision of gel-based biocompatible electrodes in the brain of live animals. This method could eventually lead to life-saving treatments for people with conditions like Parkinson's and epilepsy. Listen, they always try to say that this stuff is for healthcare. They always try to say that this stuff is for healthcare, but there's medications and therapy that can help with diseases like Parkinson's and other neurological diseases. These kind of inventions are created to be able to have a quick jack to link humans to technology. You know what I'm saying? It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie, woogie. Humans have been tinkering with electricity's medical applications for thousands of years. As early as AD 46, the Roman Emperor Claudius's personal physician recommended he hold an electric fish to his forehead to cure headaches. Scientists didn't harness zapping power until several centuries later, but as soon as they did, they began experimenting with the brain. A series of experiments spanning the early and mid-19th century suggested that simulating certain areas of the cortical cortex with electrodes could produce specific reactions, such as facial tics in dogs. Researchers also discovered that this method could potentially alleviate some neurological conditions, but it proved tricky to deliver the electricity. For a long time, we have wanted to make electrodes that we won't have to implant in the brain. Marlon Hort, a medical scientist at Lund University in Sweden and one of the co-authors of the paper, tells Inverse. Doctors have used implanted electrodes to attempt to treat conditions such as epilepsy and Parkinson's, which cause tremors and balance difficulties for just over 30 years. This procedure is called deep brain stimulation, or DBS. Essentially, patients have thin electrodes implanted deep inside the brain that generate electrical impulses to help stimulate neural activity. This method may help control involuntary muscle movements by regulating the impulses that the brain sends to nerves throughout the body. To date, over 150,000 people have received DBS treatment. This type of therapy can come with hazards. The electrodes tend to be stiff and inflexible, not ideal for delicate tissues. You typically get a lot of damage at the insertion site, Hort says. Such damage can lead to post-op complications, including migraines, numbness, and increased risk of seizure. But a new type of electrode could sidestep these complications entirely. In a new study, the researchers described their new injectable gel-based polymer that organizes itself into electrodes within living tissues. We let biology create the electronics for us, Magnus Bergden, an organic electrodes researcher at Linköping University in Sweden and senior author of the study, said in a press release. When the molecules inside the gel meet enzymes inside of an animal's body, they become electrically conductive. This reaction could allow scientists to stimulate various areas inside of the body with an extremely applied voltage. Now, let me ask you guys a question. I want you guys to think and be creative in the comment section. What else could be done if something like this is created? What could scientists or the government or corporations or any other entity do with this kind of technology? You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, the procedure didn't appear to cause pain or discomfort in the zebrafish. When zebrafish are in pain, they respond in a lot of different ways, such as firing off swimming very fast, or they can roll around, Hort said. We didn't see any of these negative effects. So I think that's a very good sign. Hort and his co-authors caution that while their results are exciting, this technology is still a long way from any human applications. They need to show that the gel electrodes work in fish and leeches when stimulated externally, for example, but demonstrating that they can form safely marks when encouraging first step. Demonstrating that they can form safely marks. Okay, but demonstrating that they can form safely marks and encouraging first step. What that means is demonstrating that these electrodes can properly form inside of the animal that they're injected into marks of encouraging first step. Now, if they come up with these kind of electrodes, these kind of things can be put into food. You know what I'm saying? In the future, this method could show promise for people. In addition to safer deep brain stimulation theory, the tech could allow for more sophisticated brain scans or even motorized prosthetics that react to nerve signals. This is also something that could kind of give some kind of gauge and tell people how everybody is feeling at the same time if the electrical signals that give evidence of emotion can be monitored, which is, in my opinion, that goes down the line of Orwellian, not giving people their privacy. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how comfortable people would be if they have electrodes inside of them. And if they create these organically deliverable electrodes, like I said, they could be placed in food and you would never even know that they're there. They could be delivered in many different methods. Say, for instance, a global pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Just saying. It doesn't have to be the one that everybody's censoring everybody about. It could be a global pandemic that hasn't occurred yet. Just saying. So the next thing we're going to be talking about are forever chemicals. How many people have heard of forever chemicals? And if you guys know what any forever chemicals are, drop them in the comment section. Let me know what they are. If I'm not mistaken, many forever chemicals, if you look at the bottom of a plastic container, they have a triangle with arrows and a number, and it says like PS, like polystyrene. Those are forever chemicals. Those are chemicals that do not naturally decompose. So they either have to be disposed of in a special way or they should be recycled. That's one of the reasons why they have that recycling triangle around them. It says that forever chemicals may endanger hundreds of iconic species worldwide. I wonder if humans are part of that. A new report finds that PFAS threaten more than 330 species around the globe. What does your morning routine look like? Let's say you started off by shampooing your hair, brushing your teeth, flossing your teeth, and scrambling some eggs in a non-stick pan before grabbing your umbrella. There's a rain in the forecast before heading to the door. You may not know it, but all of those activities include products known to expose humans to toxic forever chemicals, known as per and poly fluoroalkyl substances. All right, per and poly fluoroalkyl substances. These chemicals are used in the manufacturing of many household products and acquired their grim nickname because they don't break down easily and can linger in the environment and in the human body for years. Previous scientific research has discussed a host of harmful links between PFAS and human health, including cancer risk. Though there's been significantly less scientific coverage of how PFAS might be affecting animal wildlife, though PFAS can build up in soil, air, and water. But a new report published on Wednesday by the Environmental Working Group, a nonprofit consumer advocacy organization, focused on issues like chemical safety and agriculture, and it suggests that PFAS may pose a threat to hundreds of species worldwide. The findings were considered into a first-of-its-kind interactive map showing where wildlife is threatened around the globe. This is one more staggering visual that shows the extent of widespread contamination caused by PFAS pollution, Tasha Soilber, senior scientist at the Environmental Working Group, added that policymakers should be highly concerned about these findings. They're not. Now, let me ask you guys, look at the United States. Look at everywhere else on the planet and look at the United States. Let me ask you a question. What countries are probably the most responsible for destroying the planet? What countries are the most responsible for destroying the world? Look at this map right here. The purple is US EPA fish. Okay. So the fish in the United States are really suffering from this EPA or from these PFAS. You know what I'm saying? All of these little dots here are where all of these chemicals are coming from. So now here it says scientists affiliated with the Environmental Working Group analyzed more than 100 peer-reviewed studies on PFAS and wildlife to create their global map, which found that more than 330 species are at risk of exposure to forever chemicals. Researchers detected that more than 120 distinct types of forever chemicals in these animal species. These new findings build on their previous research published in January, linking high levels of PFAS in freshwater fish throughout the United States. The researchers found exposure to PFAS in every continent around the world except Antarctica. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Why wouldn't there be any PFAS exposure to animals in Antarctica? Probably because there's no humans in Antarctica. Though more species appear in places like Europe and North America, owing partly to a large EPA data set on freshwater fish in the United States. But in reviewing the available studies, there are data gaps in several specific regions, and fewer studies were noted in the global south, Stoiber says. There was a greater representation of fish species on the map because these animals are a source of food and vital to many countries' economies, making them more likely to appear in scientific research. The data also encompasses many aquatic mammals like orcas and dolphins. But the map spans the gamut of animal species from smaller mammals like Felix cactus, which is domestic cats, to birds like the boops boops, literally meaning cow eyes. The iconic American bald eagle even makes an appearance on the map in Minnesota, along with green turtles in Hawaii. We wanted to highlight the extent of PFAS contamination in numerous types of species, including many types of fish, birds, reptiles, frogs, and other amphibians, large mammals, and small mammals, Stoiber says. The map also uses a triangle to designate species that also appear on the IUCN Red List of threatened species, which means they are already at greater than normal risk of extinction before even factoring in PFAS. Some beloved threatened animals like polar bears, red pandas, manatees, and sea otters grace the map, potentially putting their existence on even shakier ground. All right. So now what we're going to talk about is how the animals are exposed. A significant source of PFAS from industrial manufacturing of household goods. These are industrial sites that can release PFAS into the soil, air, and water, exposing both humans and wildlife. PFAS is transported through ocean currents and in the atmosphere to remote regions around the world, Stoiber says. As a result, species in all corners of the globe are at risk of toxic chemicals. Though researchers explain that wildlife living near contaminated water sources or closer to densely populated areas are at higher risk. Some animals, like polar bears, may also consume PFAS in fish or in other food sources, but scientists say that wildlife may still be at risk of PFAS exposure even if they don't appear on the map, since that data only encompasses species from the scientific studies that were analyzed. Further testing would likely reveal similar exposure for wildlife in locations not highlighted on this map, since the PFAS pollution is truly a global crisis, writes researchers in the report. So now let me tell you guys a question, or let me tell you guys something. If people can figure out an environmentally safe, energy efficient means of safely disposing of these chemicals, there you go. That's a business. That's something that the world needs. The world needs to get rid of forever chemicals. not stop using them, just to make it where they don't last for so long. If you can come up with a way to safely, quickly, efficiently break them down, there's your money. You know what I'm saying? Is this map really such a big deal? Let me ask you guys a question. Is this really a big deal, or should we actually be worried about this? Who's worried about this? You know what I'm saying? In a word, yes. Although there's less scientific research about how PFAS affect animals compared to humans, there's still enough data to be concerned. A 2020 paper found biomarkers associated with altered liver and immune function in stripped bass, owing likely to PFAS exposure. Other recent studies have found associations between altered immune response and PFAS exposure in bottlenose dolphins and American alligators, as well as impact on hormones in polar bears. Significant association between infectious diseases and elevated concentrations of PFOS and PFOA in the livers of sea otters is a cause of concern, writes researchers in a similar paper from 2006. Stoiber says the effects on animals are similar to what we know about the health impacts on human. Of course they would be, because humans are animals. PFAS are also a particular concern to animals already threatened with extinction due to climate change or habitat destruction, since exposure to these chemicals may affect their bodies in ways that make them less resilient to disease or injury. Plus, plenty of the fish on the map are found in fresh water and rivers and lakes where Americans get their drinking water, and species like the striped bass are a common catch in recreational fisheries. So it's not just the animals we need to be worried about, but our own health too. What can we do about forever chemicals? Out of the more than 12,000 known PFAS compounds, EPA has currently approved more than 1,000 types of PFAS for manufacturing, and experts still say that's too many. We know that PFAS are accumulating in the bodies of humans and wildlife, so turning off the tap and limiting their use as much as possible is critical for controlling this population, Stoiber says. What's needed is the most ending non-essential uses of PFAS, Stoiber says. At an individual level, we can try to push for reduced PFAS on the consumer side by buying fewer household products that contain these toxic chemicals. Pay attention to the products with labels like non-stick, stain-resistant, and wrinkle-resistant, which may indicate the presence of PFAS. You can find lists of PFAS-free rain gear and other products online, but experts say bigger changes will need to come from the government if we really want to curb the sheer amounts of PFAS in our world. Stoiber says that the government must regulate all PFAS as a designated class of chemicals to avoid the perpetuation of contamination. Otherwise, we may run into a situation where the government regulates one type of PFAS only for manufacturers to replace it with a different type of toxic forever chemical compound. With better regulation, we can prevent the widespread release of forever chemicals into animal habitats and our own homes. This class of chemicals can be used indiscriminately for decades with little regulation. It is now time to act, Stoiber concludes. Well, you know what else would help? It would also help if the people that came up with these companies had some kind of ethical threshold. But as we know, these people have no ethics. They don't care about anything. They don't even care about themselves. So because these people have no ethical thresholds, they don't care about who's damaged by any of these kind of chemicals. If the companies knew this, they would take their own internal initiatives to stop these kind of things from being manufactured and disposed of improperly. But they don't care. And as long as there's a government in place, the government's not going to care either. All they're going to do is just let the chemicals slide from whoever is the highest bidder. You know what I'm saying? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. And if you guys haven't smashed the like button, please make sure that you guys smash the like button. Also, if you guys have not subscribed, make sure that you hit the bell icon twice. And please share the video to your social media. I cannot depend on the YouTube algorithm for channel growth. I have to depend on my subscribers. Only you guys can make the channel grow. So please help me out by smashing that like button, sharing the video out, and keeping that chat as active as possible. All right. So they just found something in outer space and they're calling it a caterpillar. Look, Hubble spots a space caterpillar in the Carina Nebula. All right. This adorable little nebula makes its home in the cloudscape of the much larger Carina Nebula, about 7,500 light years away from Earth. Let me ask you guys a question. I want you to sit back and use your imagination and try to think of what a train ride that is 7,500 light years long would feel like. Okay. Carina is such a large nebula that it actually contains numerous smaller nebulae within its nebulous boundaries, like neighborhoods in a big city. Those include the Homunculus Nebula, the Keyhole Nebula, and the Gabriella Mistral Nebula, home of the gorgeous cosmic cliffs from one of the James Webb Space Telescope's first images. And then there's this cute little guy, a small, very dense nebula, which happens to look like an escaped Eric Carle character thundering through the space. NASA's Hubble Space Telescope recently captured this image. All right, so there's it right there. I don't know if this is that. Did they put those eyes on there? Is that? Oh, okay. Yeah, they put those eyes on there. I was about to say, now that's really kind of creepy. If that that's really kind of creepy. If those eyes was just on there like that, you know what I'm saying? The space caterpillar is what astronomers call a bulk globule, even though it's definitely more caterpillar shaped than globe shaped. Bulk globules are small clouds of gas and dust packed so densely they block visible and ultraviolet light, which is why this little nebula looks so dark. It's just about 2 light years long. The largest actual caterpillar here on Earth is about 6 inches long, just for reference. And it contains somewhere between 10 and 20 times the mass of the sun. So what's a space caterpillar made of? Mostly molecular hydrogen, pairs of hydrogen atoms bonded together with a side order of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and helium. So there's also a tiny sprinkling of silicate dust. And just like a real caterpillar will eventually metamorphosize into a butterfly, this little bulk globule will eventually collapse under its own mass and form a star system, probably with 2 or more stars. Astronomer Bart Bok and Edith Reilly made that exact comparison in 1947 when they described a newly discovered type of dark nebulae and tiny nest of star formations similar to insects' cocoons. But in 1947, astronomers couldn't actually see what was going on inside the dense cloud of bulk globule that requires the ability to see infrared light, whose longer wavelengths can sneak through dense clouds of gas and dust to reveal things that are invisible to optical or ultraviolet light. Bok and Reilly could only speculate, and in the absence of solid evidence to support their idea, it was generally not accepted. In the long run, however, Bok and Reilly turned out to be spot on. The first infrared space telescope, NASA's Infrared Astronomical Satellite, gave astronomers their first look into a bulk globule in 1990, a discovery announced in a paper partially titled "Bart Bulk Was Correct." Now astronomers know that many bulk globules will eventually form double or even multiple stars, although some may also just eventually drift apart. Here's another full image. All right, so here it is right here. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I mean, you know, that's not like a functional discovery or anything. Actually, it kind of is. It kind of is, because if people were technologically on point, see, everything in the universe is real estate. It's all real estate. We just deal with people that, for the most part, are on a short-term mind state. You know what I'm saying? Anything that you can get your hands on in the universe is real estate. It's just a matter of getting your hands on it. But most people aren't concerned with this. And then when somebody else gets their hands on it, people are upset with the way that they decide to use it. Well, if you didn't get your hands on it first and lock it down, the only thing that you can do is say to the people who did take it, I guess I got to follow the rules. And then you got to ask yourself the question, is the world correct? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. We are trying to get to 10K subs by the end of the year. Help me do that by smashing that like button, smash that bell, leave a comment after the video, share the video out to all of your followers, watch it all the way through to the end, hit the backup channels, and I will catch you all on the next one. All right, peace.